Ali and the Golden Eagle by Wayne Grover. Chapter 14. Ali's Royal Welcome. "That's my father's western palace," said Faisal, pointing out a large building on the edge of the great Arabian escarpment. "Look over that way, Ali. See that city on the slope of the mountains? That's Aba, where we will land." Ali, nose pressed to the window, was looking down from the helicopter at the country of which he was a citizen, yet about which he knew so little. I couldn't imagine what he was feeling. I could only compare it with how I might feel if I were suddenly thrown into the future by some magic time machine. "Mr. Wayne, I'm glad you are with me." "I'm glad too, Ali. I know you and Samson will enjoy your royal stay." Faisal called the control tower at Aba, asking for landing instructions, and within 10 minutes we were on the ground in front of a large hangar with Arabian flags flying in the brisk wind. As we got out of the helicopter, a Rolls-Royce limousine was waiting. The driver saluted Faisal and held the door for us to get in. We sped away toward the palace outside Aba, about a 20-minute drive. Behind us, in an enclosed, air-conditioned Mercedes-Benz truck, Samson, with his own driver, followed. Faisal kept pointing out areas of interest to Ali. As soon as we approached the royal palace grounds, the huge gates swung open, and we drove inside. It was like something out of a storybook. The palace had a tall minaret on each corner. A massive, shining central tower mirrored the sun. It was breathtaking. Along each side of the entrance were long pools, surrounded by deep green grass and flowering shrubs that seemed out of place in the desert. The limousine stopped in front of a large, ornate wooden door that must have been 15 feet tall. 4 Saudi soldiers snapped to attention as Faisal stepped from the car. "Welcome to our home, Ali, Wayne. Come, let me show you to your rooms." Ali was speechless. He stared at each new thing he saw in the cavernous palace. The richness and grandeur were beyond imagination. But Ali seemed more taken by the paintings that adorned the walls. Many were of former kings of Arabia, and one caught his attention. It was of King Faisal, son of King Saud, seated on some large cushions. A large gerfalcon was perched on a round stand next to him. "Who is the man with the falcon?" asked Ali. "That is my grandfather, King Faisal. He is dead, but he loved his birds and was a great hunter." "How does one get to be king?" Ali asked, in all seriousness. Faisal looked at me, held his hands palm upward, and seemed lost for an answer. "You must be the eldest son of the king," I said, "and when the king dies, you will become king." "I think I would one day like to be a king," Ali said. Faisal burst out laughing and patted Ali on the back. "Little friend of the birds, you can be a king sooner than you think. You can become king of the falconers if you and Samson win the contest." "Where is Samson being kept?" asked Ali. "Come along, I'll show you." Faisal led us across the highly polished marble floors to an inner courtyard where 2 men were just setting down Samson's cage. The bird was screaming at them and trying to bite their fingers through the cage. In the courtyard were 6 round falcon stands carved from olive wood and padded with gold-studded leather. On each was a white falcon, the most prized bird of all royal falconers. Faisal had told me the birds were nearly priceless, the result of a breeding program that often produced multicolored birds instead of the rare white ones. These falcons feathers were white, tipped with black, making the birds look almost regal themselves. Ali drew in his breath with a noticeable sound. He had never seen white falcons before. These birds are more beautiful than I can say. My father should see them. He would not believe me if I told him. Your Samson is the most beautiful bird I have ever seen, Ali, replied the prince. I know he is young and does not have the training to compete with many of the birds that will be in the contest. But it is good experience for you both to compete. These falcons are the finest in all the world. They have been trained by the best falconers and are going to be entered in the contest by my brother and me. We have hopes of beating the Emir of Kuwait, who has taken the championship for the past 3 years. Ali looked the prince right in the eyes and said, with all seriousness, my Samson can win against all other birds. He will be the champion. Faisal started to laugh, but did not want to hurt Ali's feelings. He knew the rules and requirements would tax the finest teams on the contest field. You will have every chance to do that, Ali. I promise you. Now why don't you feed and care for Samson? I'll have fresh meat brought to you. That big T perch is for Samson. He needs to get used to his new home, so be sure you tie him securely. As Ali opened the cage door, the 2 men who had carried it to the palace stepped back in fear. Reaching inside, Ali spoke softly to his eagle. I know you miss your home in the village, Samson, but we will be here for only a short time. Are you hungry? He reached in and gently stroked the big bird's head, running his hand down between the tucked wings. Samson pushed his massive head against Ali's hand as he enjoyed the petting. After a few minutes of this closeness, Ali took the leather straps and snapped them onto the ring on each of Samson's legs. He then put on his leather arm cover and stuck his arm under the bird's chest. Samson stepped up and onto his arm, nearly flattening it to the cage bottom with his weight. In one swift movement, Ali had the big bird out and perched on the stand. After he had fastened the straps, Ali stepped back. There, now you have some freedom. The nearby falcons all began to flap excitedly on their perches. The eagle was easily 3 times their size. Samson raised his huge wings as if to fly and held them open. He gave a shrill eagle whistle that excited the falcons even more. It looks as if Samson has taken charge of the roost, said Faisal. Ali fed Samson some meat that was delivered on a gold tray brought by a servant. The big bird ate ravenously, then settled down to preen his feathers. Now, it is our turn to eat and talk of the contest. Faisal led us to an ornate dining room where there was an early lunch waiting. After we had eaten, Faisal asked a servant to show us to our rooms. I knew I had better go with Ali at first because he would not know how to use the toilet or the sink. His room was large, with a massive bed on a raised pedestal. The stained glass windows cast a mixture of shimmering colors on the white marble floor, creating a rainbow effect. This is the toilet, I explained. After you have finished, you push this, and the water will clean the bowl. Ali looked in wonder at the water standing in the carved onyx bowl. I then showed him the sink and water taps. Each tap was made of gold in the shape of a dolphin. I turned the hot water on, and water poured from the dolphin's mouth. Ali drew a sharp breath. How can it be that water comes from this thing? He asked in amazement. He stuck his hand in and felt the water, drew it back and smelled it, then did it again. He tried the taps himself, laughing each time water spilled out. After I had shown him the shower and explained how to bathe in it, he said, "It is all so confusing. Water from a fish, a machine that flies like a bird, walls that make rainbows. I cannot seem to keep all this in my head." "Don't worry, you'll soon get used to these new things. I'll come for you in an hour. Faisal told me he would have some new clothes sent up for you." As I left Ali, I knew he was going to examine everything in the room. It would be great fun for him. The king was due to arrive tomorrow to open the falconry contest. He would bring with him the emir of Kuwait. It was going to be a big 3 days. After showering and changing clothes, I went down to find the prince. He was sitting on a leather couch in one of the luxurious living rooms, talking to another younger prince named Turkey. I had no difficulty remembering that name. Turkey was about 18, one of the younger princes, and he spoke English with a noticeably cultured accent. After we had talked for about an hour, I excused myself and went up to get Ali. I hardly recognized him. 2 servants had helped him dress in a beautiful new tobe of white silk and a red checkered gutra with a golden agal, a woven rope that held the headdress in place. On his feet were new leather sandals trimmed with handcrafted designs and gold-colored piping. Letting out a long whistle, I bowed from the waist. "Is this Prince Ali of the Eagles?" I asked. "I feel a bit foolish wearing these clothes, but the material feels good on my skin. I wish my father could see me now. He would be very proud," Ali said. "Mustafa is proud of you, Ali, whatever you wear. He is a lucky man to have a son like you." Then Ali did something I had never seen him do before. His eyes filled with tears as he thought about his father back in the canyon. "Come, my fancy friend," I said, "we have much to see and do before tomorrow, and there is another prince who wants to meet you." We went downstairs to join the 2 royal princes. Both stood to greet us. After Faisal had introduced Prince Turkey, we all went to show him Ali's eagle. Like others who saw Samson for the first time, Turkey was struck by the bird's size and beauty. "May I touch him?" Turkey started to reach toward Samson, but Ali quickly jumped between them. "Samson will let no one but me get near him. He has bitten and scratched several who have tried. I'm sorry, but he is dangerous." Turkey smiled and stepped back. "You are a very lucky boy to have such a bird. I should like to buy him from you. Name your price." "Samson and I are a pair," Ali replied. "Where I go, he goes. Where he goes, I go. I could never part with him." "See, Turkey, I told you," Faisal said. "You cannot buy everything." The 4 of us took Samson out to the field where the contest was to be held. Ali carried the big bird on his shoulder. Samson was excited and kept flapping his wings, rising as far as the restraints would permit. Ali fed him some meat he had carried along and then let him fly free. The big eagle soared high overhead as if inspecting the new terrain. He climbed higher and higher until he was just a speck in the sky. Then Ali stood perfectly still and closed his eyes. We watched as Samson turned and dived toward the ground, hurtling at an ever faster speed. The speck grew larger and larger, and Samson came back to his master, drawn by an unseen, unheard command. With a fluttering of his mighty wings, Samson landed on Ali's shoulders. Ali pointed to the sky, and Samson immediately was airborne again. For 3 hours we watched enthralled as the boy of the canyon put his eagle through his paces. Turkey and Faisal were nearly speechless with awe and envy. They both had thought the white Arctic gerfalcons they would use in the contest were more skillful hunters than any large bird, but now, as they watched Ali and Samson, they felt a flicker of uncertainty. We returned to the palace as the sun was sinking behind the mountains of Asir to the west. It had been a long, exciting day for us. And after dinner, Ali and I went to bed early, both of us anxious for tomorrow and the first day of the contest.